So me and this fellow YouTuber, Gesture Jim, has been talking about his new Canon T2i, and he's had a lot of questions for me, and I've been giving a lot of answers, and I realized, you know, I should just make a tutorial video for him, and I'm sure other people would have the same questions that he does. So here's my T2i. If you can see, it has a battery extender pack. I can put 2 batteries in here, you can see. Apologize for the quality of this video. Obviously I'm not using my camera to shoot the video, I'm using my iPhone. The first thing I really did with this camera was hack it, I guess. I installed Magic Lantern. It's like not a recommended thing by Canon, but like percentage of having something wrong with your camera, as long as you have everything backed up, you're pretty much fine. But it gives you a lot of advantages, especially for the T2i. Major advantage is the audio. If you don't have Magic Lantern on your T2i, it has automatic gain on the audio. They might have patched this, you might have some control, but that's the main thing that I got Magic Lantern for my T2i, was so the audio input was not on a gain and just like blown out when there was no sound and turned down when there was sound. I wanted control over that, and because I have a mic for mine, so I need to go into the camera to record, or that's what's least expensive to do, and so that helps me out a lot. It also gives you a lot of in-menu. I'm not going to go through all the Magic Lantern settings you can have on your T2i. You can go to their website, Magic Lantern, just search it in Google, because I don't think it's magiclantern.com, I think it's something else. It's like a wiki page. There's a bunch of tutorials, and they actually work on a wide range of cameras besides just the T2i. I think they actually have it for the 5D. Maybe not the 5D, but I know for the 7D, the 60D, a bunch of other Canon cameras. It gives you a lot of features. Besides that, I wanted to address the depth of field, and that was a big question that Gesture Jim was asking me about, and he asked about the kit lens, and he asked if you should get a better lens to get that look. I said you can get a better lens. Obviously, it's always nice to have a wide range of lenses, but you can get the look on the kit lens, and this is how you can do it. First of all, you want to set up if the camera is further away from the subject, and the background is even further away from the subject, and then you zoom in on your subject, you'll get a smaller depth of field, and you get that fuzziness in the background that a lot of people want that look now, because it looks more film-like and it all looks much more professional than everything being in focus. So just pull all your things apart. You know, your cameras need to be far away, yourself or your subject needs to be far away, and in the background far away, so they're all spread out. And you just zoom in, and you get that look. So another way to help minimize that focal length to get you that shallow depth of field is you want your aperture as far away as down as possible, and that is the second number from the left. I apologize if you can't see that, but the second number from the left in the bottom corner, and that's your aperture. And of course, the lowest you have that, the more light you bring into your camera, which if you're shooting indoors, you usually want that as low as possible. The first number, by the way, is the shutter speed, and I usually try to have that up to like 100 or more. It gives you that more kind of choppy vlogger look that I have sometimes. I float around that. I don't always use it. If you're shooting more of a film-like, and you're shooting 24p, which I do a lot in this camera, you want it closer to a 60 or 50, something around that range. Gives you that smooth look and not choppy. It looks more film-like. But a lot of fight scenes, they have that cranked real high. That looks cool and real crisp. And lots of times, actually, you want to shoot fight scenes in 60 frames per second. And that also gives you advantages to do ramp-ups in slow motion. But for what we're talking about right now is depth of field. You can put that, of course, lower helps because it gives you more light. Because the higher you have it, you need more lights. But anyway, so you keep your aperture down really low, and then your ISO. Lots of times, I'm sure if you just start using this camera, ISO is the last number on the camera, and that's like the digital feature that helps the camera if there's not a lot of light. And if it's on auto, it will bump it up a lot, and that actually ruins the image. It adds some graininess to it because it's trying to put light in dark areas that you don't want. The rule of thumb is usually 400 is where you want it set at. I sometimes push 800 in my office because I only have I think 900 worth of watts in my office, but I still get the look I want, and I don't lose a lot of quality. But usually you want it at 400 if you have the lights. But if you go higher than that, you start to lose a lot of quality in the video. So you want to usually take that off auto, otherwise you don't know where it's at all. Now if you use those tips, you'll get a much better quality video. Also, if you're shooting in 24 frames per second and you have your shutter speed around 60 or 50, this will give you close to a film-like look that can be improved in post. What you can do is in color correction, you can crush your blacks and heighten your lights, and this will give you a more contrasty look. But we'll go into that in a different tutorial for color correction. Another tip for improving your videos on YouTube, you want to have an export of a 1080p. I know if you're using Final Cut Pro and you go up to File and Share and you want to go right to YouTube, the default is actually 72 and not 1080. Now there's a lot of different softwares that compress your file. One I use a lot is MPEG Streamline. There's also a compressor with Final Cut, and I'm unsure of what Final Cut X has. I think it actually has a separate compressor program you can download that's probably very similar to the compressor file that you have. I can go into some more detail in my tutorial, but basically you want to change your 720 setting to 1080p, and of course these Canon T2i's, they shoot in 1080, so there's no reason to degrade your video for no reason. You want to have the highest quality video you want to send up to YouTube, obviously without having too large of a file that would take forever to upload. So I'm hoping these tips will help. I'll have some future tutorials on color correction and compressing and uploading to get an even better quality video like I was describing. I also have a tutorial on my complete setup and what I do to get my videos to look the way they do. This has been Beardy Boy. Thanks for learning with me. 5 years in February.